This is NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, with the latest NASCAR local, regional, touring, and international racing news and views, here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. I'm Hannah Newhouse, joined as always by Kyle Rickey, and we are back in a state of Zoom. If you're watching via digital or if you're listening, well, it probably all sounds the same, but busy travel plans this weekend as Kyle and I were both at Texas, and Kyle, it was a hot one, needless to say.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was in the booth.
You were in an air-conditioned booth all day.
It was like
Who am I kidding?
67 degrees up there in the booth, high above the start-finish line. But yes, you're right. I felt bad for the turn guys out in the corners and you and Woody Kane on pit road because when we got to the racetrack, it was approaching, 100 degrees. And
at least.
The sun went down and we looked at the temperature at one point midway through the race and it had gone down to a whopping 89 degrees. And with the humidity, it still felt like 93 degrees at, 8:30 at night. So, I felt for you guys out there, but we did a great job. It was a good show, and Kyle Busch won and kind of smoked him, but it was a good event. It was cool in the booth though.
Yeah, it was cool to see Kyle Busch give kudos to short track racer, now turned NASCAR gainer or truck series driver Christian Eckes, battled with the boss man. So we always love to see when we see our NASCAR home tracks kids and folks get their shot and see success at the top levels. But speaking of heat, the Hampton Heat was this past weekend at Langley Speedway up in Virginia. It was hot up there as well. And a stacked field. That race always brings the hard hitters. Again, part of the Virginia Triple Crown is what it's called, usually consisting of 3 races.
Yep. And
a new face, someone that's has been looking to break through really the last year or so here in the late model world, found his way to victory lane.
Butterbean. And that's all I really need to say, right? Now, Brenden Queen picked up the race win. We'll talk to him here in a little bit. Brandon Pierce was second, Peyton Sellers third. Let's see, we have Trey Cruz fourth, Timothy Peters, former NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series winner, rounded out the top 5. Some late race contact, 3-wide battle there on a late race restart when Brendan dove down to the inside of Corey Heim and Connor Hall. But it was one of the biggest races of the year, and when the doors open, you gotta dive it down in there, and he did successfully and picked up the race win. Great event. You mentioned part of the Triple Crown usually. Not sure what's happening with at least one of the other races. We know we're going to go to Martinsville later this fall, hopefully for the late model event. And South Boston is usually that third event, what has been called the TSI Harley-Davidson 200. Again, that event in a state of flux right now. So, but a great race, great field, and look forward to talking to Butterbean here in a little bit.
That name, always get a kick out of it. I love late model names. I love racing names and just how they somehow find their way into what they are. We talked about Ryan Vargas, who has Rhino, and we've talked to him prior about that nickname and how he got a lot of them obviously originating from when they are young children and something that comes there. So we'll have to talk to Brendan about how he got that one. But the ARCA Menard series, again, they have been busy the last couple of weeks. They were in action at Iowa alongside IndyCar over the weekend. And Ty Gibbs, once again, at 17 years old, is now creating an impressive resume, Kyle.
Yeah, he is, last month or so, on fire. Did well at the Pocono Raceway in Pennsylvania. Backed it up a week and a half ago at Kentucky Speedway. And then at Iowa, led all but the first 10 laps to score the win over Sam Mayer. Brett Holmes, who we had on the show last week, finished third. Chandler Smith and Taylor Gray rounded out the top 5. Great race, good field, 20-plus cars on hand for the start of that event for the ARCA Menard Series. And the championship standings, Brett Holmes able to gain a few points on Michael Self, the leader, just 19 between those two. Drew Dollar third. Haley Deegan had some mechanical issues halfway through the event. She finished 4th. Thad Moffitt rounds out the top 5. You wonder where Ty Gibbs is in points. I figured he'd be up there in the top 5, but he is not running the full schedule this year in the ARCA Menard Series, kind of handpicking a lot of the ARCA events while also running in the ARCA Menards East Series.
Yeah, and a tough break for Haley Deegan. It was her 19th birthday that she was celebrating at the racetrack. So to unfortunately, on that behind the wall is a tough break. And, she had some issues in Kentucky as well. So 2 back-to-back races for her. She's definitely going to have to find a rhythm here soon to contend for those points. Hopefully a win comes her way to make up that gap. Modifieds, though, also, we've talked about it all since the restart of the season. Seems like every week something new was being added, something is being changed. Yeah. The poor guys up in the Northeast are probably refreshing their Twitter feed and their emails every day because they never know where they're headed next. So some new news came out of the modified world.
Yeah, and it's been tough, and we talk about it every week. We're in a region of the country that was one of the original hotspots. Thankfully, is no longer a hotspot, but still governors are in the state of Connecticut anyway, and in Massachusetts, the home of Seekonk Speedway, and Thompson and Stafford, where the modifieds run. I feel like half of their schedule in a normal year. The governors pretty much have these states locked down tight still, just out of abundance of caution and trying not to become another hotspot, being so close to New York City. So the NASCAR Modifieds added another event up in New Hampshire, a state that a little less locked down than down here in southern New England. They're going to run at the Langley Speedway in Winchester, New Hampshire on August 29th. The last time the Tour raced there, way back in 2016, I believe, when Timmy Solomito picked up the race win. Their next scheduled event, also up in northern New England at White Mountain Motorsports Park on August 1st. The Tour raced there back on July 4th. Justin Bonsignor won that event. And the series will also go back to Jennerstown in Pennsylvania on August 22nd. So the Tour right now kind of tiptoeing around southern New England, which, is a bummer because it's the heart of where the Tour usually runs. They usually are at 2 or 3 times a year at the Thompson Speedway, 2 or 3, at least 3 events a year at the Stafford Motor Speedway. But because where we are and where I am up here in Connecticut in between those 2 tracks, it's just pretty hard to host those type of events now with the crowds that are needed at those racetracks to pay the purse and the sanction fee and everything that goes about hosting a NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour event. And right now, the 2 tracks that I just mentioned can only host 25% of the fans. So you need more of that to host a modified event.
Yeah, definitely a spendy cost that comes with hosting one of these touring events, that being the ARCA East and ARCA West as well. So we've seen some fluctuation in the scheduling for both of those as well, as tracks are unable to host and bring back that revenue via fans. So wouldn't be surprised if we see some more fluctuation in basically all of our regional touring. We're continuing to see it on the NASCAR national level with things in flux and changing last minute. But part of the world we're living in, at the end of the day, we do get to go racing. We just aren't sure where yet.
Right. And like you said, it changes every day, every hour sometimes as the rules change and the numbers change. But again, we're fortunate to at least have the cars back out on the racetrack. And I feel like most of the facilities have found a way to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that being said, let's get our winner this past weekend from the Hampton Heat dialed up, Brenden Queen, Butterbean, and we will talk to him here after the break.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Power isn't born, it's built over time. For over 65 years, Hercules Tires has been providing the muscle to move more drivers. Whatever the vehicle, whatever the terrain, and we back it with a powerful protection plan. So wherever the road or the trail takes you, we have the selection, value, and strength to get you there. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
All right, welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, and we're joined now by the winner of the Hampton Heat this past weekend from Langley Speedway, Brenden Queen. But you're driving down the road right now. Before we get into it, where are you headed? And I hope you're in the passenger seat.
Yeah, we just made it to the car, so always on the move, even when we're not racing, you know.
Gotta love it. It never stops. Although the racing may be on the weekends, it takes place throughout the week, getting ready for everything. But let's talk about the big win this past weekend, the Hampton Heat 200 at Langley Speedway. Wild finish in those last 10 laps, that restart with Connor Hall and Corey Heim with about 10 laps to go. What was going through your mind on that restart with about 10 to go when you restarted third and knew that, hey, one of the most prestigious wins in late models is on the line right now?
Well, we had came from about 19th, so just to have a shot to win was pretty incredible. The team never gave up, and we got in position, but I think they were really worried about each other and had kind of counted us out, and they left the bottom wide open, and you got to take it when 10 grand's on the line and a crown jewel event. So I just was like, I got to get a good restart here. I've been watching them, the restarts before, and luckily it worked out for us. I know they weren't happy, but the bottom was wide open, and I mean, I was dead even with them before we even got into turn. So sometimes the third place car is in the best seat.
And it turned out to be the best seat for you on Saturday night. Up until that point, though, how was the race going for you? How was the car in the first 190 laps before that late race yellow?
To be honest with you, we started off and we were way too tight, and we actually dropped back, like I said, to about 19th. And I was just trying to manage my equipment and my tires and make sure that we had something to at least try to race at the end. And right there before the pit stops at 150, we drove back up to 8th, and I'm like, okay, we're in a good position to make some adjustments here for the final little 50-lap shootout. And, you know, at these races, there's going to be cautions. There's going to be a lot of aggressive driving at the end. So I'm like, we just got to be in position here. And fastest car doesn't have to always win the race, but you just got to lead that last lap. And we actually ran our fastest lap on lap 203, because even though Corey and Connor were out after our little incident, I still had to hold off Peyton and Brandon Pierce on a green-white checkered. But it's like when we got that clean air on that restart, we were checking out.
Definitely a tough and a stacked field this past weekend. But talk about the conditions of the race. We, Kyle and I were in Texas over the weekend with the NASCAR Gander Outdoor Truck Series, but it was hot all across the nation. I know it was hot up at Langley Speedway, and a 203-lap total race. How physically grueling was that, and the toll that it took on you guys this past weekend?
The hand reason it is hot days with the no ride height rule. There's no air getting in at all, and the caution laps do not help because that's when the air starts to rise up. Now, I did my part of hydrating and trying to stay in shape, but it's not just mentally grueling. You know, it's physical and everything is going on. I mean, you're sweating the whole time, but it is hot, and I can't even imagine what it was like in Texas because it was hot here. I remember last year's Hampton Heat was like the worst I've ever been in a car. This year was a little bit cooler, but at the same time, when you get up there racing for the lead, it's definitely getting hot in the cars. And like on the victory laps, when I realized I'm out of breath now, you know. So trying to do the interview after the race, I had to keep catching my breath. So you got the adrenaline, the heat, and just emotions running through it, you know.
No, absolutely. And Hannah mentioned, you know, temperatures well into the 90s across the country all weekend long, and Virginia was no exception. Rate the field, if you can, for me. A solid field. Hannah mentioned it a little bit ago. 26 cars took the green flag on Saturday night. It doesn't look like the pandemic and everything that has gone on in
Still
2020.
got me, or, break up.
Yeah, he's breaking up a little bit, driving down the highway. You got us?
You got me?
We got you. If you got
okay,
us.
Something froze up there. Yeah, the field, man, it was tight. If you look at qualifying, I was the first car to go out to qualify, and I ran a 15.6, and I'm like, that might be the pole. And I was 11th, and I wasn't even a 10th off the pole. And that just shows you right there, from the pole back to 15th was separated by a 10th. It don't get much closer than that. And to see all those cars at Langley, Langley's probably one of the toughest tracks we race at. Obviously, I race there every week, being in my backyard, but at the same time, I've raced at a lot of tracks, and it's by far the hardest I've ever raced at, and I think it's because it's so flat. But when you're racing against national champions, and we call them the super teams, the Lee Pulliam teams, the Sellers, the Nelson, anytime you can beat those guys, being a backyard team is a huge win. And I mean, it was overwhelming the amount of support I got. We keep laughing. One of my buddies, Tyler Hughes, is out of the car right now. He put a video on Facebook screaming like a little girl for me to win, and that just shows, somebody that wasn't in the race knew how much it meant to win that race, even though he couldn't be there. So it was a stacked field.
Yeah, and that it was. And in regular circumstances, this would be one of the Triple Crown races, one of the toughest races that we go to in late model stock racing, South Boston being one of those. And then, of course, the late model stock race at the end of the year at Martinsville. You've now checked the Hampton Heat off of your bucket list. Is it safe to say that you're going to set your eyes, hopefully, on that big Martinsville late model clock?
Yeah, absolutely. That clock, my mom already said she has a spot for it if I ever win it. So the pressure is on. It's nice to finally get one of the big races under our belt. We've been close in a bunch of them, a couple of seconds, and our best finish in Martinsville is 7th. But everybody knows you have to survive down there, and it'd be nice to bring home a clock. I won the little clock from the Blake Morris race this year on iRacing, but I want the real clock. And just hopefully it'll work out. And it's one of them races you just have to be in position and have a little luck on your side. But that is definitely the plan this year, is to get the clock if we get the race there.
Absolutely. Twin features coming up next for you guys in a couple of weeks on August 1st at Langley. You ready to go and kind of get into the heart of the season? I mean, it's late August, but and run for this championship at Langley?
Yes, sir. It's going to be a hard-fought battle with the Edwards brothers, and I know Connor's going to be back fast, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be the 4 of us battling it out is what it's looking like. Danny and I obviously start off the year a little bit better and have a little bit of a cushion on those guys, but at the same time, we want to win races. We want to prove that we can get it done weekly. But opening night was such a heck of a race between Danny and I. I led the white flag and he led the checkered, but it was for the fans, for the 1,000 fans we were allowed. We had them on their feet. So hopefully we can get back to the Twin 50. It's going to be a little bit easier on us, not being 200 laps. So they're little sprints, so nobody should be worn out after those. But it'd definitely be nice to go back and click off 2 wins, if not hopefully 1, and just top 3s we're looking at. And we're lucky at East Carolina, but Langley's my home track, and that's where I really want one.
And like you said, it's a tough field on a weekly basis, let alone for a big race there at Langley. And final question for you here, one a little bit more off the wall here. Your nickname, Butterbean, I believe it is. Brenden Queen, Butterbean, where did that come from? Because when you did win on Saturday or over the weekend, that's all we saw was Butterbean won. And I was like, okay, I finally have to ask him where this nickname has come from.
Yeah, so don't feel bad. That's a common question. When I was little, I was really fat and chubby when I was a baby, and I looked like this professional boxer named Butterbean. And he was a pretty well-known boxer, and I got a nickname from that. And then my mom always called me by it, but then my friends found out. So the next thing you know, the school's calling me by it in class. And then it ended up on one of my race cars. And now people don't even call me Brenden. I mean, I don't even remember the last time anybody at the track has called me by my name, yet alone spelled Brenden right, because I always spell it wrong with an A or a O. So even Dominion put me on Race Monitor as Brenden Queen when I was up there. So it's kind of a brand. I told everybody I love it, and I kept the nickname on the cars, and you don't forget it. If you think of that name, and especially like with our scheme with the Mario on the car and everything, kind of image now, and everybody knows who you're talking about. So it's not really a bad thing, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's always been a question of mine. And again, you mentioned your friend Tyler Hughes. He's actually the one that got me your contact, and your contact phone number is Butterbean. And I was like, well, I better explain once again when I forward this along to everyone that it is Brenden that we're calling. But Brenden, we'll let you get back down the road again. Congratulations on that win this weekend, and we're looking forward to watching you the rest of the season.
Hey, I appreciate y'all having me. Thanks for everything, and keep Tyler straight. That's my buddy. So he's a good guy. Hopefully we can get back to battling him for a win soon.
Definitely Tyler Hughes, again, involved in that wreck over the last 2 weekends at Dominion. We send definitely speedy recovery thoughts over to him. But Brenden, congratulations, and we'll definitely talk to you soon.
All right, thank y'all.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Power isn't born, it's built over time. For over 65 years, Hercules Tires has been providing the muscle to move more drivers. Whatever the vehicle, whatever the terrain, and we back it with a powerful protection plan. So wherever the road or the trail takes you, we have the selection, value, and strength to get you there. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
Last week, a lot of racing action on tap all throughout the United States. We saw a lot of big super late model and late model racing events, and we'd mentioned the Hampton Heat and Brenden Queen. You heard from him bringing home that win at Langley, but also the CRA Masters of the Pros was at Nashville Fairgrounds. Matt Craig won that over Bubba Pollard and Jake Garcia, Travis Braden, and Jackson Boone rounding out the top 5 there. Matt Craig, again, we talk about it all the time, one of those up-and-comers that has been on fire the last 2 years, contending with the best of them, such as Bubba Pollard. Also running at the Dells Raceway was the Thunder Super Late Model Touring Series, I think. Is that what it's called?
I believe you're right.
I think I am too. But they were at the Dells, Gabe Summers, Casey Johnson, and Riley Stenjum. That top 3, Tundra. Is that what I said? I said Thunder. I knew better than that. That didn't sound right. Tundra. Sorry, folks. And that was actually at Jefferson. At the Dells, though, they ran the Weaver 50 for the late models. It was Zach Riddle, Jesse Bernhagen, and Adam Benzik in those top 3. But, Kyle, there was a lot more running across as well. The SRL Southwest Tour ran out at Irwindale Speedway. Lenny White, who's a regular usually at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, of course, their season having had been canceled, he went out to California to go ahead and get some racing done and won that race over Derek Thorne, Dylan Lupton, Tyler Fabozzi, and Trevor Huddleston.
And there was some other racing at NASCAR home tracks across the country. New Smyrna Speedway finally got a break from Mother Nature. The Modifieds able to complete their event. They were the headline this past weekend. Timmy Moore picked up the win over Jerry Simmons. And in Super Stocks, it was Doug Samian picking up the win over Mike Amato. In Grandview Speedway, love watching the dirt modifieds at Grandview. Mike Gallard picked up the race win over Justin Grimm and Jeff Strunk. At the Monadnock Speedway up in New Hampshire, Brian Roby, a new name to Victory Lane for that series this year, picked up the race win over Matt Kimball. Aaron Fellows won in the late models. Kingsport Speedway in Tennessee, they were able to open up their season this past weekend with Cress Van Dyke picking up the race win over Nick Williams and Brian Dennis. And also a pair of sportsman events. Kyle Barnes picked up the race win there. And at Stafford Motor Speedway here in Connecticut, Keith Rocco did it again in the SK Modifieds, holding off Woody Pitcat and Mike Christopher Jr. Al Saunders picked up the late model win. So, a month ago, Hannah, we would get to this point of the show and didn't have a whole lot of results to talk about because tracks were not either one, allowed to run yet, or two, they were trying to figure out how to make it work with the limited capacity that they were allowed and are still allowed. And it's nice to see every week we're talking about more and more different racetracks that are finally getting their season started. Better late than never. But I know, like Stafford, for instance, they're picking up some Saturday night shows. Usually it was 18 Friday nights. Well, you lose May, you lose most of June. Mother Nature has been very nice here in July, so they're adding some Saturday night shows as well, just to try to make up some of those events for the teams that, for the most part, worked all off season and then sat idle for 3 months.
Yeah, as much as we love our friends over at iRacing, again, at some point we had Kevin Iannarelli from iRacing on. As much as we loved our friends over at iRacing, it is nice to have legitimate short track racing to talk about people who just were in victory lane, and the fact that we get to go to racetracks as well. I'm off this weekend at Kansas. I know Hickory's racing. We've talked about going out there and watching some. Kyle, you're off this weekend, right?
I am.
So would you be heading over to lovely Stafford?
I will be heading over to lovely Stafford Motor Speedway.
I should have guessed.
On Friday night. And then I think I might go to Monadnock Speedway on Saturday night.
We'll a busy weekend. Maybe we can get some 6 foot away selfie interviews with our winner. Would love to see that to add to coast here. But ARCA, Menards, we've talked about how busy they are. They are once again racing this weekend, 3 weekends now in a row. They will be following the NASCAR National Series to Kansas this weekend. Late start time for them, though. They have a 10 p.m. on-air start time on Saturday night, right?
It's Friday night. Friday night after the first truck race of the weekend. It's going to be busy. It's a weird schedule this weekend. Thursday night, the NASCAR Cup Series. For the first time that I can ever remember, they're opening a race weekend with 4 races to follow. On Friday night, it's the first of 2 Truck Series events. And then after the first truck race, 10 p.m. Eastern time, the Dawn 150 for the ARCA Menard Series. And then on Saturday, it's another doubleheader with the Xfinity and Truck Series. I think that's right. There's been so many schedule changes and fluctuations here in the last couple of weeks. It's hard to put them all together, but it's going to be another fun weekend, another busy weekend for us here on the Motor Racing Network. So tune us in all weekend beginning Thursday this week.
Yeah, awesome. And again, thank you so much to Brenden Queen for coming on talking Langley and Hampton Heat. Congratulations on that win, and we look forward to talking short track racing again with everyone next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. I'm Hannah Newhouse for Kyle Rickey, our producers Craig Moore and Jeff Wackerlin. We will see you guys next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
You've been listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.